So I put a social post out around my plan to triple my business revenue and have more impact in the world without sacrificing my family, my relationships, and my mental and physical health in 2025. And I want to go through that. So this is Project Titan25. I want to expand on what that social media post is all about, go into a bit more depth on it because it's easier in this type of video, and to go through my goals for this year as well, because it's easy to look at just the business side of stuff, but ultimately I've got to have goals if I don't want to sacrifice my family, my relationships, and my mental and physical health. So this post is all about that, and realistically it's all about intention this year and taking deliberate action. And what I mean by that is just actually thinking about things. Often in life, we take unintentional action. We take undeliberate action, right? We're kind of just going along with the flow, stuff that we've always done, habits that we've fallen into. We're not kind of reflecting, reviewing, and then moving forward with that. All we're doing is just kind of going, this is the norm, and we just push through, we stay passive, we stay comfortable. And ultimately, it leads to a sort of feeling of being lost in life. And I remember, a few years ago, I was walking with my wife, and I'd spent probably weeks building up to this conversation and just said to her, I'll feel lost in life. And ultimately, it was because I wasn't being intentional at that time. I wasn't taking deliberate action. I was just doing and going through the motions. And so this is really ambitious because I have been doing this for a little while, but now I've got a 5-week-old baby. And so I know that this is really ambitious. Everyone keeps telling me that I can't do this, or, you'll put a little bit of dad weight on, or X, Y, Z. And I know that from my own experience, I don't have to. It's a choice. And look, there's going to be some times that are really difficult. There's going to be some times that are a lot easier, right? But this is me putting it out there. So I'm holding myself accountable. But I also want to show to other men, to other dads, that this is possible. You can do this too. And I know that because I've seen other people go through it. So I just don't want to be settled. I don't want to settle, be the comfort dad. Be the dad who isn't present for their kids, physically or mentally. Often, I'm going to be around physically, but I'm not really there mentally. And that's really going to be key for me. And it's something I've thought about for a very long time, way before these first 5 weeks. I don't want to be comfortable, because ultimately comfort leads to stagnation, it leads to average, and it leads to feeling lost in life. It's not where I want to be. All right, I want to be advancing, and this is what Project Titan25 is going to be about, and this is kind of how I'm going to do it. And so with everything that I've gone on in my life, the simplicity is going to be key. I have to be ruthless in prioritization, in what I'm doing, the actions I'm taking, who I'm seeing, all these things, because ultimately we can all spend a lot of our days putting out fires, doing things that we think are important, or just faffing around, right? Procrastinating. And ultimately, if I'm going to do this, I don't really have the time to do that anymore. And it comes down to 3 philosophies. Now, the first one is the legacy. So what I do and what I do with the men that I help and coach and teach is to figure out their legacy. Like, what is the legacy that they want to build and have while they're alive, and the lasting legacy they want to leave? Because we don't often think about it, right? We don't. Like, we kind of want to have a legacy. We want to feel like we've done some good, or been a good dad, or been a good husband, or whatever. But we don't actually get intentional about it. And this is the whole point of getting intentional and taking deliberate action. So I'm going to create the legacy map, which is basically something that I have already. I'm going to just refine mine, but it's something that I also help clients do. We're creating the legacy map at the start of this year with clients, and creating this document where basically that is kind of your document for life. It's like your purpose statement, your reason for being alive. It's stating who you want to be, how you want to act, and why. And also, not just that, it's connecting where you are now, where you want to be, with a bridge, right? With the actual steps to get there. So that's what I'm going to create, this document. I'm going to live every day by it. one thing I did when I first created it was read it every day for 90 days. Once I've reviewed it, redone it, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to recreate it and read it every day for the first 90 days. Because what I've often found in my life is that when we get into normal life, it's so easy just to forget that we've even done it, and we just get sucked into the normal life. We often don't see the bigger picture. I always liken it to flying. When we're up at 35,000 foot in the air, we can see so much and we think how beautiful it is and how small we are, right? Because ultimately you can't just see one person down on the ground there, right? You can only see big things, maybe like stadiums or anything like that. But then we land, we get into the airport, and there's a queue for passport control, and we start to get frustrated, impatient, and because we've just left the bigger picture, right? We're thinking on a macro scale when we're in the air of, well, like, you know, even questioning, oh, I can't believe how big the universe is and how small we are, like questioning our meaning in life. Yet then we go down to passport control and we're just angry and frustrated, right? Because all we're doing is concentrate on that queue. So philosophy number 2 is zero distractions. Now, this, of course, is going to be really hard because ultimately, you know, distractions are there to serve us, to make us feel better. And this is why I'm going to utilize the pleasure pathway, which is part of my dopamine reset program. And that's basically what I'm going to do is understand that true pleasure comes from getting uncomfortable and becoming uncomfortable, pushing myself into fear or discomfort or whatever it is, and understanding that I know through my own personal experience of doing this, that these are the things that make me happy. It's so easy when I'm tired, when I'm stressed out, when I'm feeling challenged to go back to comfort, some chocolate or alcohol, or, you know, maybe just skipping a workout, or all these types of things, right? Scrolling through phone and watching TV. It's not to say that I'm not going to do these things, but ultimately I don't want them to destroy my mental and physical health. So I'm going to create pleasure in the true way, and I know that I can do that through this pleasure pathway system, which I know I've implemented before in my own life, and I'm going to make sure that this is a clear routine or document that is really going to, you know, give me the XYZ effectively, because ultimately I can leave it, I can think about it, I know what to do, but if I just keep it as part of thin air, it's going to be unintentional at the end of the day, right? Because I'm just going to forget about it. And then lastly, this is a real big thing for me, because actually this is something that I haven't necessarily done before, and the rest of it is all just like reviewing, reflecting, learning lessons from 5 weeks already of having the baby, and recreating the things that I already have and do with clients. This is something that I have done in different stages, but I'm going to keep straight line momentum. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, you've got 2 points, A and B, right? To get there, the fastest way is a straight line. So I want to utilize that straight line. Often I'm zigzagging or circling. Zigzagging means you make some progress, but you end up going backwards after that because you maybe sabotage or something like that. I've done that. I do that. Circle is just kind of like, you get distracted with shiny objects, you know, you're like, oh, it must be more complicated than this, or I need to do this XYZ, you know, so this hasn't worked, so what can I do to make it better, or is it me, is it XYZ, you know, I feel unworthy of this, all this sort of stuff, and you end up going around in circles. So instead I want to create that straight line momentum, and ultimately that comes down to beliefs. And so I'm going to really hit hard. I started this last year. I'm going to keep going on limiting beliefs. Beliefs are ingrained and they have a lot of energy and emotion behind them. So it's dealing with all of those. And that's why I'm utilizing the belief upgrade. Again, part of the dopamine reset. Because again, like I know that I want better for my family, for myself. You know, I want to be able to provide for my family. I want to be able to show my son that the pathway to success as well, you know, to get in the life that you want. And ultimately, you know, I'll be honest, I haven't been able to do that so far. So this is one of the big things for me, is that straight line momentum. The only way to get from right where I am to the legacy map is that straight line. It's not zigzagging around and getting distracted by shiny objects or bad habits or other distractions. And ultimately, I'm going to keep using something that I use all the time because it's really important to me, is the peak performance planning system. And that is what I've been talking about a lot of this time. In my own format, I've put it down. My own format is a peak performance planning system, which we review, reflect, set goals every single day, week, month, quarter, year. And this really is then being able to fail and keep moving forward anyway. That's what straight line momentum is. But it's also part of the peak. I'm only able to do that from doing the peak performance plan system because I'm going to reflect, review, and move forward anyway. There's going to be tough times. I've already had some really tough times already this year. It's been hard getting back to work with a newborn baby. So a lot of lessons learned, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come. There always is in life. So just before I go into my goals for the year, the dopamine reset system is something that will help you to end distractions and end bad habits. It's going to eliminate distractions, end bad habits. And it's my system that I've created to ultimately start to get more focus, being able to be present for your family mentally, being able to, and physically, if you maybe feel like you don't have any energy, being able to have more focus at work, so again, ultimately you're only going to get promoted or get more business revenue if you own a business, like if you are focused on the stuff that you need to get done. So again, we're going to look at that. Have more energy. So again, distractions drain our energy. Scrolling on your phone, watching TV, procrastinating, it drains your energy because ultimately you're creating this gap of where you want to be and where you are now. And the bigger that gap is, the more there's a lot of feelings there, the more stress it's creating, the more energy is drained. So ultimately, when we bring that gap back closer, we're going to have more energy. And also, part of that is, of course, physical routines, workouts, exercise, nutrition, sleep. It's all a huge part of this, right? And ultimately, that's a big thing to concentrate on. Thirdly, we're going to create more meaning in life because of that. Because when we go after comfort first, it gives us more pain long term. And just as an example of that, when we're always indulging in junk food or just snacking, doesn't mean to say that you eat terribly all the time, but even just that dessert on a night or picking off the kids' plates, over time that leads us to the pain of being overweight, which leads us to not feeling good in our own body, which leads us to not wanting to take our top off, not feeling strong, not feeling fit enough to play with our kids, have the energy to do that. So ultimately it ends up in pain. But when we choose pain in the first place, which is working out, eating well, saying no to things, we're going to have more pleasure because we're going to have more energy. We're going to have to play with our kids. We're going to have a body that we're proud of, that we feel good taking our tops off with. Probably going to have our mates like wanting to be like us ultimately, right? So this is kind of, again, why it's important to do this. I've got a video that's free that you can go and have a look at this dopamine reset system. It's a free workshop. I think it's about 15 minutes long, maybe it's not even that. And you can grab it for free if you just message me saying system, and I will send it over. So anyway, on to my 2025 goals. So of course, you've seen the business ones. I've sort of said that above: triple my revenue and impact on more men. Ultimately, I've built a business called Be More, which is to help men be more. It's for men who want more from life, more from their relationships, more from their whole being. And we're going to do that. The dopamine reset is actually the first step to that, because ultimately we can't step into something if we're still distracted and have bad habits. We can do it simultaneously, but we have to start putting things in place to end those bad habits. One of my clients said to me, when he lost a ton of weight, he said, I couldn't now be looking at any sort of vision work or any sort of setting goals because I couldn't look past the way I felt about myself and my body. So it's the same, it's bad habits, right? And so we need to eliminate them first. But Be More is all about men and creating better men, because ultimately it's hard for men, and most people don't think that. They think it's been easy for men because of all the stuff that's happened. Everyone says masculinity is toxic. It's not. It's just can be, right? The same as feminism. But this video isn't for getting into that discussion, but it is about understanding that we can express a healthy masculinity, and ultimately that's part of the next step of the dopamine reset. Post that, you know, we're looking to master our own kingdoms, and that's what Be More is all about. So we can set better examples to the men around us, our families, our kids, right? So ultimately they will then inspire the next, because then once we get that on a ball rolling, we're going to have more men present for their families, right? More men showing and paving the way of how men should be, not just getting distracted, comfortable, overweight, slobbing around, right? This is the point. So actually, if that's challenged you, you maybe need to look into that. So my next goal is physical. Look, one thing I like to do is I like to run. I do running, I do gym, and I've wanted to do. I did an ultra back in 2021, and I loved it. Since then, I've had injuries or illness that stopped me from doing another, and now a baby. I would like to do another one, and it's still kind of a maybe goal. Is to do a 100-kilometer race in July. It's very much up in the air at the moment, and it depends on how the next couple of months go. But I might be able to do another one. I'd like to do a couple of races anyway, maybe shorter ones, maybe some half marathons or 50Ks. We'll see. But really, my main physical goal this year is to stay fit, strong, and healthy. It's still being able to walk up a mountain while staying, while not getting out of breath, basically, which is something that I can do now. It's still being able to run pretty much any distance I want with limits. I'm not going to be able to do 100K off the bat. It's still being able to feel strong in the gym, lifting heavy. It's still feeling good in my own body, not putting on a ton of weight this year. So actually staying lean as well. It's kind of like a feeling, right? It's not about any measurements or anything like that. It's about the feeling that I have now, and I want to continue that or even get better. I don't want to just stagnate in my physical health. It's not the main priority for me. Business this year is the main priority for me. However, it is going to be there, and it still doesn't mean because business is the priority that I have to get rid of every other goal. It just means that it might just be maintenance this year, right? But you still have to work at maintenance and set goals of maintenance. Most of the time, we're either putting weight on or losing weight, and we don't want to do that. We want to stay in maintenance, so we still have to be intentional about it. So my physical goals are really just stay fit, strong, healthy, and lean this year, so that I'm in a good place in a year's time, and I'm not regretting eating too much or stopping my running, so I don't feel as fit, right? And things might get in the way, injuries, illness, whatever. That we deal with that when it comes. There are obstacles that you have a contingency for. So number 3 is my relationships. So one of my big goals again is, of course, once this intense period of newborn stage releases, is to kind of be able to have more quality time with people. And that's a big thing for me, because ultimately we can spend time with people, but how much quality is it? If we're all on our phones or watching TV, it's not quality time. Don't get me wrong, I love watching a movie as much as anyone else, and that for me I enjoy, but it's not quality time where you're sitting down having a conversation or going out for a meal or having a couple of drinks, whatever it is. So one of my goals it's probably going to start being ambitious, but start Q2 onwards, is to spend intentional time with my wife, and of course my son as well, because I don't want to be, although business is my main goal, I don't want to be the dad who's never around because he's trying to provide for his kids and then ends up like estranged from them, and the whole family in divorce and all that sort of stuff. I've seen it happen many times. It happened to my family, so that's not where I want to be. I want to invest in my relationships this year. Now look, just as a little caveat to all these goals, I'm not setting you the specifics of them, just because it's a bit boring that way, but make sure they're specific so you can do it. So for example, mine will probably be, spend 1 2-hour block potentially every single week with my wife intentionally, spend 2 hours with my son every single day intentionally, that type of thing. Obviously at the moment he's very much just a newborn and sleeps most of the time anyway, so there's not really anything there. But once he starts becoming more alive, is that the right word? I don't know. But once he starts becoming a bit more around and awake, that's different. And then lastly, it's my mindset, my mental health. One of the big things here is that I can drill myself into the ground business wise, just stay on top of everything else and then not invest in my own mental health. So things that I'm gonna do this year again. This is good. I've already set out a framework for this, but stuff like breath work, meditation, um, spending time with God for me as well, and it's also going to be journaling and just getting out into nature. For me, getting out into hiking the mountains is just pure bliss, not only physically but mentally. It just resets, stops you from thinking about when you're climbing up a mountain, you don't think about anything else in the world. So it's about having these periods of time of flow that is outside of work where I'm not thinking about work, and I want to do that every single week, multiple times a week. Of course, I'm not going to be hiking every week. That might happen once a month, once every 2 months. But there's other things I can do, and I have a full list of those things. And number 5 is I really want to expand my knowledge as well. So I've got a few books already to read. I'm itching to read them all at the same time, but I'm just sticking with one at a time. And expand my knowledge on masculinity, especially creativity and trauma, actually, as well. So I've got 3 books already around that. So I'm going to keep expanding the knowledge around those as well this year. So they're my goals for this year. I'd love to hear yours, or if you've set any, or if you need any help with any. First of all, you've got the dopamine reset system. Just message me saying system, and I'll send it out to eliminate distractions and end bad habits so you can get more focus, energy, and meaning in life. Or if you're kind of feel like actually you're above that and you just want to start to look at mastering your own kingdom and create this legacy map, we're going into it very soon. So just message me saying legacy, and I'll send you over some info about it. And we can see if you're a right fit for it. Ultimately, it's going to take action, it's going to take intention, it's going to take hard choices, and it's not going to be comfortable. But if you want a better life, then nothing is. So appreciate you watching this if you've watched to the end, and I will speak to you very soon. I want to do this more often, so keep an eye out for more videos.